Okay, guys, so in the after test final review, that did very, very well. Even in what would be really heavy winds for this boat, like we're simulating 25, 30 knot winds, somewhere in that range. No, we're simulating way higher winds than that. No, wind is wind. It's a boat. I put it in that wind. If it's in real life and it's in the same wind, it'll be pretty strong. That fan on maximum, it's too much, way too much wind for me to just sit in front of. And I know my wind. It's right around 30 knots, guys. So we're putting 30 knots of true wind on this boat, and it handles it great. If you were out on the water with this in 30 knots of wind, you would have a blast. And as you notice, it doesn't heel over, guys. It just doesn't. I, in fact, specifically designed it not to heel over, which is what I want my boat to do in real life. Now, the one thing I will say to you is if you're going to do a single sail in the front, you can get away with that with no adjustments. Just remember, your boom angle has to be set so that it matches the force of the wind, basically, so that the two sails are in balance. As long as you have that, you'll be able to turn the boat easily both directions. Now, when you're turning into the wind, in this case of this sail, when you're turning left into the wind, it'll be doable, but you'll need pretty much full rudder, but you can do it. And as soon as you broach the wind, you're in and you're cruising the other direction, and you don't need much rudder anymore at all. Now you just hold it straight. So it's a really sweet setup. It will work for you, but I recommend the 3 sails because it's faster. And when the wind comes from this side, it's here, it's great. What I recommend is the 3 sails with this one on a traveler, so that you can pull it closed with the spring-loaded setup I discussed, and that's it. The rear sail worked perfectly. It's all in balance, and the forces are balanced enough that when the jib is tight, like it would be in heavy winds, it perfectly balances this sail, which is the heavy wind sail, and when I let it out a little bit, it balances this one. So it really is a very balanced setup, guys. A very balanced setup. In heavy winds, sometimes you actually tension a sail like this to keep the sail from not taking in as much wind. Well, if you have this on a servo, you can do that. Because once you bring it in, if you keep pulling on it, you're now tensioning the system precisely. And that really is sweet. So that's one thing. I would actually recommend a servo here, a rudder servo, and this guy, which would be 3 channels. But you don't actually need to do this. You just clip it on, set it to the angle, and that's it. Let it go. That's what I actually recommend. And then the front sail is the one I recommend that you be able to close if you're going to do a big front sail. If you do a small front sail that's not that effective like this one, you can control the whole setup very, very easily, and it won't be as fast. With this setup, it's way faster, and because it's faster, I would prefer to use it on my own. Even though it is a little more complicated, you do have one more sail to make, and you do have another servo to install. But you could take this exact setup, run it with just a single servo for the rudder, and it will work because the rudder can overcome the force of the wind against this sail, even in really heavy winds. That's what that test just showed me. Everything I was aiming for, this boat does. It's not heeling over at all. It no longer even needs the buoyancy material, except that if it fills with water, it's going to need that to get it back to shore. So that's a safety feature. That being said, the boat's done. This is the official end of this series until I have the money to put the RC gear in it. I may redo the sails, prettier colors and stuff, but in the end, this works. And this is a successful design that is nicely tensioned, and self-tensioning is the key here, guys. It does it all by itself. Splits the tension between the sails, the whole ball of wax. The sails feed each other. It's a really nice layout. I technically have one more sail for this that goes up on the front, but there's no way for me to set that up as an RC. It'd have to be a real boat for that. In real life, I'd have a traveler on this one and on this one, and they'll be able to close together and move together. I did a mock-up of that in a previous setup, and I had these two equal, and I had a traveler there, but then I realized if I offset them front and back, I don't need the travelers, and I was right. And now you can just run this setup just the way it is. But it pretty much needs to be the way that I've shown it. So consider it for yourself. Do what you want to do. Have your fun. And just know that I'm here to help. And I don't see comments, guys. So you can ask questions. But all the questions you're likely to ask are answered in the course of the video series. That was the goal. I know it's a lot of babbling, but in the end, engineering is like that. There's a lot of detail to discuss. So in the end, everything from the fact that I have this big block of wood here, to the fact that I have my sails designed exactly the way I do, to the hull design, the chines, the rudder, all that stuff is all individual designs that need to be the way they are for this to work well as a package. That being said, within that, you have a lot of freedom of how you can go about it, and this is just the way I chose to do it. I really like it, and my boat's complete, guys. Good luck with yours. Keith F.